heated up.
Hey guys, how are you? So I am Julie VerHage, co-founder of Fintech today, and I am lucky enough to be joined by Rob and Kathryn of Kabbage. And you guys have had a lot going on this year, so I'd say we waste no time and dive right in. So let's start out with PPP. I know we've talked about this before, but there was a lot going on for you guys back in February, March, and April, just like other lenders, where you had to stop a lot of your lending, lay off some employees, which no one ever wants to do, but obviously a lot of startups had to, especially in the lending space. And then all of a sudden this PPP program comes out and you guys get things up and running really quickly. So maybe Kathryn, you take a first stab at what was kind of going on behind the scenes in that sort of like 60 to 90 day time frame, from like having to stop lending and lay off to like having to get this up and running and help a lot of the small businesses that rely on you every single day.
Well, it was just very unpredictable. It was like being on a roller coaster because we just didn't know what was going to happen next. A PPP loan had never been issued before in the history of the government, if you will, or the country. And so we had to figure out how to work with that. How was that going to work? The rules changed very often. We were really excited, though, that fintechs were included in PPP. And I think it was great that the agencies recognized that that was the only way to serve a lot of really small businesses. So we just ran as hard and as fast on as many possible paths as we could to get to the outcome that we were seeking, which was to deliver as many relief loans to small businesses as we could.
Right, Rob, so this was something that was obviously changing very rapidly, like the rules around PPP, the guidelines. It was like an every hour or every day thing. How did you guys sort of manage that? Because I can imagine in a very regulated space, that's something that you have to both be on top of while trying to move very quickly for several reasons.
Well, first of all, I want to make sure you guys can hear me because my mute button goes on and off. But actually, even leading up to that period of time was crazy because we had all these plans. We had done a ton of product launches. At the end of 2019, we had launched something called Custom Loans, something called Insights, literally leading up to the time that everything shut down. And when things shut down, actually, the first thing we did was we launched something called Help Small Business, which was a way for a business to sell an electronic gift certificate. Many businesses don't do this very, very quickly through a couple of minutes sign up. And I think, then PPP came on and we were aware that was happening. But what we did in the process was we cut relationships with 135 community banks around the country, about 30 different technology companies that serve different types of small businesses. As Kathryn said, we had to react very quickly to changing requirements. We had to build technology. We had to put new functionality in the system. We had to cut deals that would ordinarily take bank partnerships that would ordinarily take 6 to 9 months in literally a few days, and then arrange for billions of dollars in capital for this. So the day-to-day, we one of the things we did was we had a tremendous number of meetings among the leadership that was working on this literally every day of the week, 11 a.m., 4 p.m., and 10 p.m., just to coordinate everything we were doing. It was I had thought the first 10 years of running a startup was difficult. We basically condensed that same experience into a period of about a few weeks. And I'm sure many other people did that as well, but that was part of our life.
Right. So what's going on with both the status of anything you guys are doing with PPP and with other types of loans right now? Kathryn, what's sort of the state of what is Kabbage doing today?
Well, today you may have seen we launched our checking account in August, and so we're taking customers into beta. So we're excited that even while we were building this platform and delivering, more than $7 billion to over 300,000 small businesses, we also move forward on our checking account. And we're excited about that because so many small businesses were dissatisfied with the experience they have with their bank that they're looking to change banks. And especially to a checking account that delivers an APY, which they're probably not already getting. So we're still waiting for final rules on forgiveness for all the loans that have already been fulfilled. And then we're waiting to see what kind of secondary relief is going to happen. Is there going to be a second draw for existing businesses? There are many lawmakers who are advocating for that, but we are, like everybody else, just waiting and seeing what they're going to do on forgiveness and second draw.
Right. On the checking account front and the other things that you guys are trying to do on the banking side for small businesses, is that a revenue driver for you, or what was kind of the logic behind that? Is it more just like a value add to keep businesses in your system?
Well, great question. What our strategy has been now for the last several years. So we really became a trusted partner to hundreds of thousands of small businesses who rely on us for loans. But what we really realized we were doing was helping small businesses with their cash flow. And so we designed a system that we call Cash Flow as a Service that includes all the key components: checking accounts, payments, which I touched on briefly, but we have now over 20,000 payments customers on the Kabbage platform, insights, which helps customers understand how cash is moving from one part of their business to another. The idea is really to assemble these different pieces to effectively be a treasurer, a virtual treasurer for the small business. And so all of these pieces we don't really look at them independently. We really look at them as a complete solution to help our small business customers focus on what they do best, and invest their time in the things that they do best, which is whatever the trade or skill or business they're in, and let us help them handle their cash flow. You're on mute, Julie.
Sorry, my dog was barking, so I put myself on mute.
It's
Thank
all
you.
allowed in these days. Dogs barking, other people yelling and stuff. It's all good.
He's looking at me now like, why are you upset by that? So anyway, so on the helping your small business front, you guys also launched something called, I think it was literally like helpsmallbusiness.com, where it was sort of to promote a lot of these small businesses that have been hurt most by the pandemic. Kathryn, can you speak a little bit to how that's going and some of the partners that you had for that?
Sure, we did have some exciting partners. The idea was really Rob's idea, and over a weekend, our engineering team built that helpsmallbusiness.com, and the idea was to allow consumers to support businesses that they loved and that they patronized, and to allow those businesses that may not have a gift card program to issue gift cards to those customers and cash into their hands is another way to sort of get through this time. And so we were really excited to have a partnership with Facebook to promote that program. And Rob can probably tell you more about who some of the other partners were. But we were really happy to be able to sign customers up for that program and get them access to capital that didn't take the form of a loan or a grant or anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we had a lot of partners. Actually, a lot of other small business lenders and folks in Fintech participated in the program. Really, it wasn't something that we were, and we didn't. We explicitly said we were not going to earn any money on that program. We still have not. It was really just to help, literally help small business. We went and got that domain. I think the thing I really enjoyed the most out of that, I mean, obviously helping the small businesses, but over 100 people at Kabbage at the same time just jumped into this program, and literally the idea formed on a Saturday or Sunday, and by Wednesday was up and running. And I think it actually was a great precursor to the PPP, because it really helped people understand how they could work in kind of urgent circumstances. The other thing is, I really think the pandemic is that time where it was the greatest test of culture that's been built at any company, and you really see how people react to stressful times and how people take care of one another. And so I think it was the beginning. This whole period has been the most. I've been the most impressed by the team at Kabbage that I've ever been. I've always been impressed, but this was just remarkable work on the part of everybody at the company.
Right. Well, on that front too, like I mentioned, you guys had some layoffs that you unfortunately had to do towards the start of the pandemic, since obviously lending was a very hard space to be operating in at that time. During this, you guys obviously had a lot of work to do. Did you bring any of the employees back? Have they been brought back now? What's sort of the status there?
We did bring some of the employees back, and many of them, however, had already found something else, another place before we were able to bring some of them back. So we, tried as hard as we could to bring back as many of them as we could for that process. But as Rob pointed out, what was pretty remarkable about what we did is we built that PPP platform, continued to work on and launch our checking account, all with a limited staff, and it's a testament to the team itself, their commitment, and frankly their skill and knowledge that they were able to do that.
Yeah. The team that you did keep, were they still getting their full pay? Has there been anything changed around that? Because I know some of my friends that didn't get completely laid off, their pay was reduced, and like other measures to kind of help the company stay safe in the long term.
So the executive team actually voluntarily reduced their salaries during that time, but we kept everybody else. I think, again, the important aspect of all of this is, I think, between Help Small Business and PPP, it's been Fintech's shining moment to show that Fintech can step in and basically help the smallest businesses in the economy. And yeah, while that was an unfortunate, period during that time, at the end of the, story here, we've really helped about 950,000 folks retain their jobs at small businesses throughout the country, because we're able to do analysis on the impact of the PPP loans we're able to help drive to those small businesses.
Right. On that front, since you guys do get so much data, what have you been seeing? Are there encouraging trends in recent weeks and months with some portions of the economy opening more than others? Obviously, you guys are based in Georgia, where I feel like things were never closed, but...
we did close for a little while, I have to say. What we're seeing is really based on industry. We're excited to see that there are certain business types that have really just gone incredibly well throughout this. And it's not just people who manufacture PPE, it's also industries like construction that have really been thriving because people are all at home. And I talked to one customer on the phone and I said, "Oh, things must be really rough right now." And he said, actually, everybody's stuck in their houses and they all want to redo their kitchens. It's amazing. But even for those businesses that are in that position, there's a lot of money they need to spend. They need to buy equipment. They need to pay their people. And in times of uncertainty, that's a scary thing. But we're excited that there are some industries that are doing really well. There are others that I think we know are challenged, like restaurant and certain retail. And so obviously we're following those customers really closely. And you're seeing some, interesting innovations in some of those industries, whether it's QR codes instead of menus, so that they're not having to spend money on printing, or they're not worrying about touching things that other people have touched. I think, the restaurant industry has proven to be incredibly innovative in the face of this challenge.
Right, definitely. And as if what we were talking about already wasn't enough, there was something else that happened in 2020 that was a big deal for you guys, and you got acquired by Amex. I know, the deal isn't closed yet, so we have to be careful what we say about it. But what was sort of the thought process around deciding to sell now? Because you guys, like many startups, there's times where it's like going way up. You got a big round from SoftBank. Everyone's like, they could be an IPO candidate. And, there's pros and cons to the decision to get bought by someone like an Amex or someone else that's more of an incumbent. So I don't know which person wants to take more of the answer to this one, but sort of walk me through the logic behind there as much as you can.
Yeah, no, happy to do that. I think going through this process, what we've realized is a lot of small businesses have been impacted by, obviously, the pandemic and will continue to be impacted. So the question is, how can we have the largest impact and help the most small businesses out there? And, so one of the timing aspects was, hey, there's going to be a recovery period in the economy, and how can we be a big part of that going forward? We've known the people at Amex for many years. As you might imagine, it's just the nature of running a company in the financial services world. So when those conversations started, it was something that seemed like a natural fit. They have a real focus on helping small businesses, just like we do. They are looking to move more beyond the card, and obviously, as Kathryn shared, we have a variety of products that go beyond lending, and so it's really a perfect fit. And the fact that it happened during the pandemic, I'm not sure that was really the reasoning behind it, but the fact of the matter is I think given the nature of where the economy is, we can now have a much bigger impact in partnership with American Express, and they share our vision to help small businesses in a big way.
Right. Kathryn, I'm glad he brought up the point of having more power to help small businesses as well, because many people don't know that Amex is technically, I believe they have a bank charter. So now if you guys are under them, you would also have a bank charter. Would that in turn help you help more small businesses?
Well, Kabbage has been working with banks since our inception, so that's nothing new to us. The American Express is a bank holding company, but I think it will be very similar to all the other relationships we've always had with banks. I think there's a lot of advantage, of course, to that relationship.
Right. Yeah. I mean, would it change the economics behind the scenes at all? Because I know, and sort of like the risk factors involved as well.
That's not something we're talking about right now.
That's fine. That's fine. So, I mean, if I'm a small business watching this, what are ways that I can imagine being able to use Kabbage in the future?
So, first of all, it's about having, I think a lot of the way financial services have been built in the past have been in silos. So there's different products. You go to, your checking account, or you accept a payment, or you use your charge card, or you take a loan out for the business. The reality is all of these things should work together in a way that really maximizes the cash flow, improves the ROI, least cost routing. Ultimately, our vision a couple of years ago was, we saw our customers, frankly, borrowing too much, too soon, and holding on to it for too long. We realized there was an efficiency in that. And as counterintuitive as it may sound, we believe that customers should really borrow the right amount at the right time and only hold on to it for the period of time. The only way to accomplish that is to combine a variety of products together to make sure that folks are getting access to payments they're receiving right away. They're able to actually pay using a variety of sources of funds, those types of things. So what they should be looking forward to is an incredibly seamless experience that allows them to, again, focus on what they do best. We call it let the bakers bake. If you're running a bake shop, you want to focus on taking care of your customers and creating incredible treats. You don't want to focus on managing the cash flow of your organization. So allow us to help you do that and focus on the things that you do best, and really, or invest that extra time in your family or hobbies, whatever you want. But let us take that pressure off of your shoulders.
Right. Kathryn, based on what's happened so far in 2020 to both you guys and other fintechs, what do you think, what has 2020 shown you about the future of fintech? Are you more optimistic, less optimistic? What are some things that you're kind of watching that we should be too?
I think this has been a great moment for fintech, frankly. The fact that the SBA included fintechs and allowed us to actually provide loans under that platform, I think says a lot for their trust and confidence in what we can do. And there's no way that without folks like Kabbage and Square and Pal, as many small businesses would have received access to capital. So I'm really excited about that. I think another thing you're seeing is consumers and small businesses demanding digital platforms so that they don't have to walk into a branch. And I think this puts even a greater focus on fintechs because so many traditional institutions are having a hard time being digital first. And so I think we're going to see more things like Chime and more adoption of those types of digital first platforms that may have partnerships with banks, but they're not directly offered by banks.
Right. Rob, what about you?
Look, I obviously echo Kathryn and I, I've been running the company for, since feels like the beginning of time. Absolutely agree. I think it's the shining moment for fintechs. Look, banks have always incorporated technology in their platforms, but it's not about just, hey, let me just put a mobile app and basically take my existing infrastructure and just stick a glossy mobile app on top of it. It's really about, as Kathryn said, being digital first and thinking about things in a way that allow for, really focus. We always say that it was our responsibility to bring our technology literally and figuratively to our customers and allow us to do the heavy lifting and allow them to focus again on doing what they do best, but also where they do it best and at the times that are convenient to them. We put out a stat once upon a time that about 20% of our loans were going out at times that banks are actually closed, during off-bank hours. And it just really emphasizes the point that small businesses operate all the time and everywhere. And I think it's our responsibility to meet them where they need to be met.
Mm-hmm. Now, one other thing on this front, something that I've kind of been like thinking about a lot myself is if COVID had happened even just kind of like 2 or 3 years ago, how do you think that would have played out? Do you think, one, that the government would have let people like you, Square, PayPal, others participate in the lending program? And two, do you think that these systems would have been prepared for it?
Some of the systems clearly weren't even prepared for it now, I would say. So if you think about the SBA's E-Tran platform really struggled to keep pace. And it's not because they're terrible at what they do. It's because it's simply they weren't prepared for that type of volume. If you look at how much the SBA provided, $28 billion in 2019 to 60,000 small businesses, it's a drop in the bucket compared to what went through their system, I think, now. So I don't think that system would have necessarily been any more prepared. I think the folks at that agency were already familiar with fintech at that time. If it had been 2 or 3 years ago, I suspect it would have been a pretty similar trajectory, maybe taken a little bit longer to get there. But I think 10 years ago, surely none of this happened. Fintech has really, I think, become a greater lens has been focused on fintech for the last several years.
Right. Rob, what do you think? For me, it seems like this was almost, I mean, I don't want to say it's the perfect time for a pandemic to happen, but I do think there were a lot of benefits to it happening now versus 5 years ago or 10 years ago.
Yeah, no, look, I think that's true. And, look, the pandemic is, I wish we could rewind the clock a year and been able to avoid everything that's happened. Sometimes it was really difficult for us to explain the differences between what we do and what others do out there, be that banks or be that other fintechs who claim to have really robust systems. The pandemic and the need to be able to serve many small businesses, very tiny small businesses, by the way, in a very rapid time period, was something that was almost felt like we custom built our solution for that exact problem. And so the fact that we were able to become the second largest lender in the country during that period of time, I think really demonstrates the power of technology and having automation and access to data in your system. So I agree with you. Like, I don't know if it's 2 or 3 years ago, but look, every year I feel like we've been able to, generally as an economy and as fintech, part of that economy, we've been able to advance the ball. And who knows, if the pandemic, were to happen 5 years from now, the question is, how different would that have been 5 years from now versus happening right now? And that doesn't seem like a question anybody's asking, but it really makes you try to think about, where technology is going and how it might actually even be better 5 years from now than it has been over the course of this year. But I've been, frankly, really, it's been remarkable how well, and Kathryn made this point earlier, how innovative and, capable people have been at adapting to a very extreme situation.
Right. Now, you both have said that the small business economy seems to be recovering a bit now that some markets are more open than others. Is it prepared for another potential lockdown? I don't think we'll go back to everything closed like it was right at the beginning, but we are coming into colder months and whatnot. Like, what can a small business do, whether it be tech-wise or finance-wise, to kind of prepare themselves for something like that, or the possibility of something like that?
I don't think anybody could say with a straight face that there wouldn't be an impact if there's a resurgence. And I think some of the difference is not so much about, is there another shutdown? It's what happens to consumer behavior? How is consumer behavior changing in response to this? And I think that's where you've seen a lot of interesting innovations on the part of small businesses who have maybe taken all of their retail inventory and started selling it online. And they weren't doing that before, signing up with folks like Shopify so that they can have an online presence, and they may not have considered that before. So I think businesses have already seen some of the things they can do. And if the consumer behavior continues to change, or people continue to remain afraid to go outdoors until there's a vaccine or whatever the step is for that, I think we've seen a little bit about how small businesses can react. And again, we're still waiting to find out what the next step of relief might be from the federal government.
Mm-hmm. Rob?
Look, they always say it becomes a habit if you do anything for like 45 straight days. I don't know the exact statistic. Mm-hmm. So I'm with Kathryn. Like, it'll be really interesting to see what the long-term impacts, both positive, hopefully positive and negative, that come out from this. But I think we're all permanently changed in some way. And again, I am a big believer that we've seen 5 years of digital progress in 5 months. Maybe we've seen 10 years of progress, but certainly not only that. All the people right now have come up with all the ideas to even make digital access, happen even in a better, faster, more impactful way. That's happening right now and hasn't even been released. Just think about the swell of creativity and entrepreneurship that's going to come over the next, call it 12 months. It's going to be remarkable. And I don't think any of us actually even know what that is yet, because so many different people are working on solutions.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you make a good point. Like, I think the gym is a good example. If the pandemic had only been a couple weeks, people wouldn't have bought a bunch of exercise equipment to have at home. And now that it's been going on for so many months and dumbbells are not on back order anymore, and you can actually have stuff at home, I think there's a lot of people that are like, hey, I'm just going to be able to work out from home. I'll make this little like small office room double as my gym. And a lot of things like that are permanent consumer behavior changes for sure.
I couldn't agree more.
But you're seeing things like yoga teachers, though, and personal trainers begin to interact digitally with the folks they used to be with in person. So I think it's a great example of innovation. So even though behavior is changing, the folks are figuring out how to continue to engage with those customers.
Right. All right, I think Amanda's coming in since it's 12:56. Okay, good. I was like, I don't want to like not ask another question.
Well, this has been an incredible panel. Thank you so much for incredible insights. And I love, Rob, what you're saying about technology really allowing small businesses to get back to doing what they're good at, and in many cases what they love about running their business. And I think that's really been the recurring theme of all the tracks and all the great speakers this morning. So thank you to all the speakers, and thank you to all the panelists, all the sponsors, and all the partners. I love that we've come together this morning to really talk about how technology in our companies and our efforts can support small businesses. We need small businesses to survive this crisis, and I think it's been very apparent from everything from talking about how community banks can help community businesses, from how we reopen Main Street, how we help our smallest of small businesses. I think the recurring theme has been that fintech is kind of having a moment, that technology really is what small businesses need right now to be successful. And I know that we all pride ourselves in using what we do for a living to help support those small businesses. So thank you to all of you who are working hard to figure out the right technology solutions to support small businesses. For those of you who are small businesses, as I mentioned in our earlier panel, go back to that place of strength and know that you can rise to this challenge. And now is the time to really embrace technology to allow you to continue to operate your business and to continue to provide your great products and services to customers, continue to communicate to customers about how they can support you. Again, we're seeing from all of the big companies we've seen represented today, as well as from consumers, people really want to support small businesses. And I think what's so great is that technology really is a win-win. It not only allows small businesses to survive this time, but it'll set you up for success in the future. And it allows for small businesses to continue to deliver what makes them so special and unique to their neighborhoods and their communities. So thank you to all of you for joining us this morning. And thank you to Fintech South for putting on an incredible lineup of speakers and topics. And I'm excited, as I know all of you are, to get back to work to helping support small businesses with all the things that we do every day to really enable them to continue to offer what they do to their customers. So thank you for supporting small businesses, and thank you for joining us this morning.